The metal corridors of Harmony Station hummed with the quiet energy of a dozen different alien technologies. Captain Lee Hyon walked slowly through the diplomatic section, his boots making soft sounds on the polished floor. The station orbited. Kepler 442b, a planet that nobody owned but everybody wanted? 3 different alien species claimed it belonged to them. Lee Hyon had been in space for 15 years, but he still felt amazed by the sight of so many different beings working together. Through the large windows he could see the brown and green planet below, its surface dotted with mining operations that sparked like tiny stars. Each species wanted the rare metals buried deep in the planet's crust. Tonight was supposed to be simple. A diplomatic dinner where everyone would eat, talk, and hopefully reach some agreement about who could mine where. Lee Hyon had organized dozens of these meetings. Most ended with handshakes and signed papers. Some ended with arguments and threats. He hoped tonight would be one of the peaceful ones. The main dining hall was already full when he arrived. The Zenthari sat at one table, their gray skin gleaming under the soft lights. They were traders who wanted to buy mining rights from whoever owned the planet. At another table, the Corvan delegation whispered among themselves, their forearms moving in complex gestures. They had been mining asteroids for centuries and saw this planet as their natural territory. The third group, the Helix Coalition, had sent only 2 representatives. They were tall, thin beings who rarely spoke but watched everything with their large, dark eyes. Lee Hyon knew they had the most advanced technology of all the species present, but they never shared it with anyone else. As the meal began, translators buzzed and clicked, turning alien languages into words Lee Hyon could understand. The food was safe for all species present, though it tasted bland to human taste buds. Lee Hyon had learned long ago to eat before these diplomatic dinners. The conversation started well. The Zenthari offered to pay for mining rights and split the profits 3 ways. The Corvan seemed interested, though they wanted a larger share since they would do most of the actual work. The Helix representatives listened but said nothing, which was normal for them. Then the doors burst open. A figure stumbled into the dining hall, moving so fast that the security guards barely had time to react. Lee Hyon stood up, his hand moving instinctively toward the small weapon at his side. But as the figure came closer, he saw it was not an attacker. It was a young female alien, unlike any species he had seen before. Her skin was a soft blue color that seemed to glow with its own light. She was small, barely reaching Lee Hyon's shoulder, with large eyes that sparkled like stars. Her clothing was simple but elegant, made from some material that shifted color as she moved. What struck Lee Hyon most was the expression on her face. She looked terrified and desperate, like someone running from a fire. Tears streamed down her blue cheeks, and her whole body shook as she looked around the room. The other aliens at the tables began to murmur. The Zenthari reached for their weapons, thinking this might be some kind of attack. The Corvan delegates stood up, their forearms spread wide in a defensive position. Only the Helix representatives remained seated, watching with their usual calm interest. The blue-skinned alien ignored all of them. Her eyes locked onto Lee Hyon, and she began walking straight toward him. The security guards moved to stop her, but Lee Hyon held up his hand. "Wait," he said. "Let her approach." The alien girl reached his table and fell to her knees. A small device on her wrist crackled with static, then began translating her words into standard galactic language. "Please," she said, her voice breaking with emotion. "I require your bravery, human. Only your kind possesses what mine lacks." Lee Hyon felt a chill run down his spine. In all his years of diplomatic work, no alien had ever made such a direct appeal to him personally. They usually spoke to him as a representative of Earth or humanity in general. This felt different. This felt personal. He knelt down so he could look into her eyes. "What is your name? What species are you from?" "I am Nera," she said, wiping tears from her face. "I am Villani. My people come from Valara Prime in the outer spiral arm of the galaxy. We are a peaceful people. We have never harmed anyone." "We cannot harm anyone? What do you mean you cannot harm anyone?" Lee Hyon asked gently. Nira's translator struggled with her next words, making several false starts before settling on a translation. My people evolved beyond violence long ago. The very thought of causing pain to another being makes us sick. We cannot fight. We cannot defend ourselves. We can only create and explore and learn. The dining hall had grown very quiet. Even the Zenthari had put away their weapons and were listening carefully. Lihayan sensed that something important was about to happen. Why have you come here, Nira? Why do you need human bravery? Fresh tears began flowing down her blue cheeks. The Krathan Empire has found our world. They have given us 7 days to leave our planet forever. After that, they will destroy everything we have built and take what they want from our world's crust. Lihayan had heard of the Krathan Empire. They were warriors who conquered planets and enslaved or destroyed anyone who got in their way. Most species in the galaxy either avoided them completely or paid tribute to stay safe. How many of your people live on Valara Prime? He asked. 50 million, Nira whispered. Our evacuation ships can carry maybe 5 million before the deadline. The rest will die when the Krathan begin their bombardment. The room was completely silent now. Even the quiet hum of the station's machinery seemed muted. Lihayan felt the weight of Nira's words settling on his shoulders like a heavy blanket. Why? Come to me? He asked. Why not ask the Helix Coalition? They have better technology than humans do. Nira looked up at him with those star-bright eyes. Because they will calculate the odds and decide my people are not worth saving. The Zenthari will offer to buy our people as refugees and make us work for them. The Korvan will express sympathy but do nothing. She reached out and touched his hand with her small, glowing fingers. But humans are different. I have studied your species. You fight for others even when you gain nothing. You risk everything to protect the weak. You have something my people lost long ago, something we gave up to become peaceful. What is that? Lihayan asked, though he thought he already knew the answer. Courage, Nira said simply. The courage to stand up to bullies. The courage, too. Fight when fighting is the only way to protect innocent lives. I require your bravery, human, because without it, my entire species will cease to exist. Lihayan looked around the dining hall. The other aliens were watching him carefully, waiting to see what he would do. Some looked curious, others skeptical. The Helix representatives seemed almost amused, as if they were watching an interesting experiment. He looked back down at Nira, this small blue alien who had traveled across the galaxy to ask for his help. In her eyes, he saw the reflection of 50 million lives hanging in the balance. He saw the weight of an entire civilization resting on his decision. Tell me everything, he said quietly. Tell me about your people, your world, and the Krathan. Fleet that threatens you, leave nothing out. Nira's face brightened with the first hint of hope he had seen since she entered the room. Then you will help us? Lihayan stood up slowly, his mind already beginning to work on the impossible problem she had presented to him. I make no promises yet, but I will listen. And if there is a way to save your people, we will find it. As Nira began to tell her story, Lihayan wondered if he had just agreed to the most dangerous mission of his career. But looking at her grateful face, he knew he could not have made any other choice. After all, he was human. 2 hours after Nira's dramatic arrival, Lihayan sat in his private conference room with his most trusted crew members. The room was small but comfortable, with a round table in the center and holographic displays on every wall. Outside the windows, the stars looked peaceful and distant, giving no hint of the crisis that was unfolding. Park Jin leaned back in his chair, running his hands through his black hair. He was the best pilot Lihayan had ever worked with, able to fly anything from tiny scout ships to massive cargo haulers. But even he looked worried as he stared at the data Nira had provided. 12 Krathan dreadnoughts, Park Jin said slowly. Each one is 3 kilometers long and carries enough firepower to level a continent. I have seen the recordings from planets they conquered. They do not just defeat their enemies, they erase them completely. Kim Soo was studying technical readouts on her tablet, her fingers moving quickly across the screen. As the team's chief, engineer, she understood alien technology better than anyone else on the station. Her expression grew more grim with each piece of information she reviewed. Their shield systems are unlike anything I have seen before, Kim Soo said. They use something called quantum barriers that can absorb energy weapons and deflect physical projectiles. Most species that fight the Krathen never even damage their ships before being destroyed. Dr. Choi Min sat quietly at the table, occasionally glancing at medical scans of Nira that she had taken earlier. As the team's doctor and expert on alien biology, she was trying to understand exactly what Nira meant when she said her people could not fight. The Villani brain structure is fascinating, Dr. Choi Min said softly. They have completely eliminated the neural pathways that control aggressive behavior. When I showed Nira images of combat, her stress levels became dangerous. Her people literally cannot think about violence without becoming physically ill. Yang Bio was coordinating with communication networks across human space, trying to gather any information about Krathen military tactics. His job was to manage all the complex communication systems that kept different species talking to each other. Right now, he was using those systems to research their enemy. I have been reading reports from the few species that survived Krathen attacks, Yang Bio said, looking up from his screens. The pattern is always the same. The Krathen arrive, demand surrender, then destroy everything regardless of the response. They do not negotiate, they do not show mercy, they just take what they want. Li Haiyun listened to his team's reports in silence. Each piece of information made their situation look more impossible. 50 million Villani needed to be evacuated in 7 days. The Krathen had 12 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy. And the humans had one small diplomatic vessel with no military weapons. What about asking other species for help? Park Jin suggested. The Galactic Council has protocols for protecting endangered civilizations, Yang Bio shook his head. I already tried. The Council will not act because Valara Prime is in disputed space. Officially, it does not belong to any recognized government. So the Council has no authority to intervene, and unofficially? Li Haiyun asked. Unofficially, everyone is terrified of the Krathen Empire. No single species has enough military power to challenge them. Even if several species work together, the cost would be enormous. Most governments think it is better to let the Villani die than risk a war. Kim Soo pulled up a holographic display showing Valara Prime and the surrounding star system. The planet glowed softly in the center, surrounded by the dark shapes of Krathen warships like predators circling their prey. The Krathen fleet is positioned in perfect defensive formation, she explained. They control all the major hyperspace routes in and out of the system. Any rescue ships would have to fight their way through the entire fleet just to reach the planet, Dr. Choi Min added more disturbing news. Even if we could somehow defeat the Krathen fleet, we still have the evacuation problem. Nira says her people have 30 large transport ships, but each one can only carry about 170,000 passengers safely. That means they can evacuate just over 5 million people in one trip. How long does it take their ships to make a round trip to the nearest safe system? Li Haiyun asked. 18 hours, Yang Bio replied after checking his data, but that assumes perfect conditions and no delays. In 7 days, they could make maybe 9 trips total. That would save around 45 million people. Which leaves 5 million to die, Park Jin said grimly. Li Haiyun stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see other ships docked to Harmony Station. Most of them belonged to traders, diplomats, and researchers. None of them were designed for combat or mass evacuation. Tell me about human ships in this sector, he said without turning around. Yangbo's fingers danced across his communication console. I count 43 human vessels within 2 days' travel of here. Most are cargo haulers, mining ships, and exploration craft. The largest could carry maybe 2,000 people if we stripped out all the equipment. That is still not enough, Kim Soo pointed out. Even if every human ship in the sector helped with the evacuation, we could not save everyone. Li Haiyun turned back to face his team. Then we need to think differently. We cannot outfight the Krafen, and we cannot out-evacuate the timeline. So what can we do? Dr. Choi Min looked up from her medical data. Nira mentioned that her people have advanced technology but refuse to weaponize it. What if we found a way to use their peaceful technology for defensive purposes? What do you mean? Li Haiyan asked. The Villani have developed something called quantum phase technology. It allows their ships to briefly shift out of normal space-time. They use it for scientific research, to observe cosmic phenomena without being affected by radiation or gravity. Kim Su's eyes widened. If we could modify that technology, we might be able to create ships that could phase in and out of reality. The Krafen could not hit targets that were not completely in normal space. But the Villani would never agree. To weaponize their technology, Yang Bio pointed out. Nira said just thinking about violence makes them sick. Li Haiyan began pacing around the room, his mind working through possibilities. What if we did not ask them to weaponize it? What if we just asked them to help us understand it, and then we figured out how to use it ourselves? Park Jin sat up straighter. You are thinking about stealing Villani technology? Not stealing, borrowing, with permission, for a good cause. Li Haiyan stopped pacing and looked at each of his team members. The Villani cannot fight to save themselves, but maybe they can help us fight to save them. Dr. Choi Min nodded slowly. It could work. If we could phase our ships in and out of normal space, we could avoid Krafen weapons while gathering intelligence about their defenses. But we would still need more ships, Kim Su said. Even with phase technology, we do not have enough vessels to evacuate 50 million people. Yang Bio suddenly looked up from his console, excitement in his voice. What if we did not need to evacuate them all? What if we could find a way to make the Krafen leave instead? How would we do that? Park Jin asked. I am not sure yet. But humans have always been good at finding creative solutions to impossible problems. Maybe we cannot beat the Krafen in a fair fight, but who says we have to fight fair? Li Haiyan felt something stirring in his chest. It was the same feeling he got whenever he faced a challenge that everyone else thought was impossible. It was the feeling that had made him volunteer for diplomatic missions in the first place. Yang Bio, send messages to every human ship captain. In this sector, tell them we need volunteers for a dangerous mission to save 50 million innocent lives. Do not give them details yet, just ask who is willing to help. What if they say no? Dr. Choi Min asked. Li Haiyan smiled for the first time since Nira had arrived. They will not say no. They are human. When someone needs help, especially someone who cannot help themselves, humans always find a way to do the right thing. Park Jin stood up and stretched. So what is our first move? We go back to Nira and ask her to teach us everything she knows about Villani technology. Then we figure out how to turn their peaceful science into something that can save their entire species. Kim Su was already pulling up technical specifications on her tablet. This is either going to be the most brilliant plan in human history, or the most spectacular failure. Li Haiyan looked out at the stars again, thinking about 50 million peaceful aliens who faced extinction in less than 7 days. Somewhere out there, 12 Krafen warships waited to destroy everything the Villani had ever built. Then we better make sure it is brilliant, he said quietly as his team began working on their impossible mission. Li Haiyan wondered if human courage and creativity would be enough to overcome such overwhelming odds. But he knew they had to try. After all, that was what humans did best. They never gave up, especially when the stakes were life and death for people who could not protect themselves. The next morning, Li Haiyan found Nira in the station's observation deck. She stood silently before the massive window, watching her distant homeworld through the darkness of space. Her blue skin seemed dimmer than before, and her shoulders shook with quiet sobs. My people are preparing to die, she said without turning around. They are creating final art pieces and recording goodbye messages. Children are asking their parents why the bad people want to hurt them. We do not even have words in our language for concepts like murder or genocide. Li Haiyan stood beside her, choosing his words carefully. What if I told you there might be another way? A way that does not require your people to fight, but could still save them. Nira turned to look at him with those star-bright eyes. What do you mean, your quantum phase technology? The science your people use to study cosmic phenomena. Could it be modified to help ships avoid weapons fire? Fear flashed across Nira's face. You want to turn our peaceful research into instruments of war? No, Lihayan said firmly. I want to turn your peaceful research into instruments of protection. There is a difference. We would not use your technology to hurt anyone. We would use it to save your people. Nira was quiet for a long moment. My government would never approve such a thing. Even using our technology defensively would violate every principle we believe in. Then do not ask your government. Help. You ask yourself. You came to me asking for human bravery. Well, sometimes bravery means breaking rules to save lives. Dr. Choi Min approached them, carrying a tablet full of brain scan data. Nira, I have been studying your neural patterns. I think I understand why your people cannot fight, but I also think there might be a way around that limitation. What do you mean? Nira asked nervously. Your brain physically prevents you from thinking about violence. But what if we could frame this differently? Instead of thinking about fighting the Krathen, what if you thought about protecting children? Instead of attacking enemies, what if you focused on saving friends? Nara's translator struggled with the concept. I do not understand the difference. Lihayan stepped closer. The difference is intention. When humans fight, we do not enjoy causing pain. We fight because someone we care about is in danger. We are not thinking about hurting our enemies. We are thinking about protecting our families. Dr. Choi Min showed Nira the brain scans. When I mentioned protecting Villani children, your stress levels actually decreased instead of increased. Your brain can handle the idea of protection, even if it cannot handle the idea of violence. So, you want me to help you protect my people? By teaching you our phase technology? Exactly, Lihayan said. We are not asking you to build weapons. We are asking you to help us build shields. Shields that could keep rescue ships safe while they evacuate your world. Nira looked out at the stars again, thinking hard. Even if I agreed to help, and even if your plan worked, you still do not have enough ships to evacuate 50 million people in time. Kim Soo joined their group, carrying technical readouts and looking excited. That is where human creativity comes in. Yang Bio has been in contact with ship captains across this sector. 37 human vessels have volunteered to help, even though they do not know the details yet. But you said those ships could only carry a few thousand people each, Nira pointed out. That is true if we use them normally. But what if we did not use them normally? Kim Soo pulled up holographic displays showing cargo ships, mining vessels, and exploration craft. What if we stripped out all non-essential systems and converted every available space into passenger areas? Park Jin appeared, having overheard the conversation. I have been running calculations. If we remove life support systems that are not needed for short trips, eliminate crew quarters, and pack people into cargo holds with temporary life support, we could increase capacity by 400%. That sounds dangerous, Nira said worriedly. It is dangerous, Dr. Choi Min admitted. But not as dangerous as staying on Velara Prime when the Krathen start shooting. We would be talking about uncomfortable trips lasting 18 hours, not permanent living conditions. Li Haiyan could see that Nira was beginning to understand the scope of what they were proposing. You humans would risk your own lives and destroy your own ships just to save people you have never met. That is what humans do, Yang Bio said, joining the group. I have been monitoring communications from the volunteer ships. Do you know what they are saying? They are arguing about who gets to take the most dangerous assignments. Nira's translator crackled as she tried to process an emotion she had no words for. Your species is very strange. We prefer to think of ourselves as determined, Li Haiyan said with a small smile. Now, will you help us turn your phase technology into a way to save your people? Nira closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them again, there was a new strength in her expression. Yes, but I have conditions. Name them. First, the technology must never be used to attack anyone, only to protect. Second, after my people are safe, all records of how to build phase systems must be destroyed. Third, I want to be on one of the rescue ships during the evacuation. The third condition is too dangerous, Dr. Choi Min said immediately. You could be killed. If my people are going to trust their lives to human bravery, then I should trust mine to it as well, Nira replied firmly. Besides, someone needs to operate the Villani systems that coordinate with your human modifications. Li Haiyan extended his hand to her. Then we have an agreement. Nira looked at his outstretched hand uncertainly. What does this gesture mean? It means we are partners now. We shake hands to seal our promise to each other. Nira carefully placed her small, glowing hand in his. Her skin felt warm and slightly electric. In my culture, we touch foreheads to show trust and friendship. Li Haiyan lowered his head, and Nira gently pressed her forehead against his. For a moment, he felt a strange, tingling sensation, as if her thoughts were briefly touching his own. I can feel your determination, she whispered. It is like a flame that never goes out. No wonder other species are afraid of humans. They should not be afraid of us, Li Haiyan said. They should be afraid for anyone who threatens people we have promised to protect. Over the next 2 days, the observation deck became an improvised laboratory. Nira worked with Kim Soo to explain the principles of quantum phase technology, while Park Jin ran simulations on how to integrate it with human ship systems. The breakthrough came when Dr. Choi Min realized that human reflexes were actually faster than Villani reflexes during high-stress situations. Your people evolved to be peaceful, so they never developed the rapid response systems that humans have, she explained to Nira. But humans evolved as hunters and warriors. In dangerous situations, our brains actually work faster and more efficiently. Yang Bio had been monitoring Krathan communications and discovered something interesting. Their command structure is extremely rigid. Every ship waits for orders from the flagship before taking action. If we could disrupt their communications, their entire fleet might become confused. Kim Soo was making progress on the technical challenges. I think I can modify our ships to phase in and out of normal space for short periods. It will not be as smooth as Villani technology, but it should be enough to avoid weapons fire. Park Jin had solved the navigation problem. Phase technology makes normal sensors useless, but human pilots have something that Villani pilots do not have. We call it instinct. We can feel our way through situations that instruments cannot measure. As their plan came together, Li Haiyan realized they were creating something entirely new. It was not just human technology or Villani technology. It was a combination of human courage and creativity with Villani wisdom and science. Do you think it will work? Nira asked him on the second evening. Li Haiyan looked at his team, working late into the night to solve impossible problems. He thought about 37 human ship captains who had volunteered for a mission that might kill them. Oh. He thought about 50 million Villani who were counting on people they had never met. It has to work, he said simply. Because the alternative is unthinkable. Nira nodded, understanding finally dawning in her eyes. That is why you humans are so successful, is it not? You do not accept that some problems cannot be solved. You just keep trying until you find a way. Now you are starting to understand us, Li Haiyan replied, outside the window. The stars continued their ancient dance, unaware that in a few days they would witness either the greatest rescue in galactic history or the extinction of one of the universe's most peaceful species. Either way, the humans would not give up without a fight. 3 days later, Li Haiyan stood on the bridge of his diplomatic vessel as it dropped out of hyperspace near Villara Prime. What he saw through the main view screen made his breath catch in his throat. The planet was beautiful beyond imagination. Massive crystal spires reached up through the clouds, their surfaces catching and reflecting the light of the system's twin stars. Cities of living light spread across the continents like glowing webs, connected by streams of pure energy that flowed like rivers between the settlements. I have never seen anything like it, Park Jin whispered from the pilot's seat. It looks like someone built a city out of starlight. Nira stood beside Li Haiyan, her blue skin glowing brighter as they approached her homeworld. My people have spent 10,000 years creating this beauty. Every crystal spire is a work of art. Every energy stream carries the dreams and hopes of millions of Villani. And in 4 days it will all be destroyed. Above the planet, the Krathen fleet hung in space like a collection of dark nightmares. The 12 dreadnoughts were massive beyond belief, each one larger than most space stations. Their hulls were black metal covered with weapon ports and shield generators. They looked like they had been designed by someone who hated beauty and wanted to destroy it. Krathen flagship is hailing us, Yang Bio reported from his communication station. Put them through, Li Haiyan ordered. The main screen flickered and changed to show the interior of the Krathen command ship. Admiral Dex sat on a throne-like chair surrounded by weapon controls and tactical displays. He was tall and muscular, with gray skin marked by battle scars and cold, calculating eyes. So, Admiral Dex said in a voice like grinding metal, the famous human diplomats have arrived. Have you come to beg for the lives of these pathetic pacifists? I have come to offer you a chance to avoid unnecessary conflict, Li Haiyan replied calmly. The Villani are no threat to your empire. Why not simply take what you want from uninhabited planets? Admiral Deck laughed, a harsh sound that made the bridge speakers crackle. Because inhabited planets are more profitable. When we strip mine their world, we will also capture millions of Villani to work in our labor camps. 2 resources for the price of 1 conquest. Li Haiyan felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice steady. And if I told you that humans would not allow that to happen? I would say that humans are brave but stupid. Your species has a reputation for fighting hopeless battles and dying heroically. How refreshing. It has been too long since the Krathen Empire faced enemies with actual courage. Admiral Deck leaned forward in his chair. Tell me, human, how many ships did you bring to challenge my fleet? 40, Li Haiyan said truthfully. Admiral Deck's expression showed genuine amusement. 40 ships against 12 dreadnoughts? Even. For humans, that seems optimistic. What kind of vessels? Battleships, cruisers? Cargo haulers, mining ships, and exploration craft. Li Haiyan admitted. The Krathen admiral laughed so hard that his subordinates looked nervous. You came to fight the most powerful fleet in this sector with cargo ships? This is either the most brilliant strategy I have ever seen, or proof that humans are completely insane. Maybe both, Li Haiyan said with a slight smile. You will find. Out in 4 days, Admiral Deck's laughter stopped abruptly. You have spirit, human, I respect that. But spirit will not save you when my plasma cannons turn your ships into debris. Enjoy your final days, they will be your last. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in tense silence. He seems confident, Dr. Choi Min observed. He should be, Yang Bio replied grimly. I have been analyzing the Krathen fleet composition. Each dreadnought carries enough firepower to destroy our entire task force 10 times over. Park Jin was running final checks on their modified systems. Phase technology is operating at 93% efficiency. Not perfect, but it should be enough to avoid direct hits. Kim Soo looked up from her engineering console. I have finished installing the modifications on all 40 human ships. The volunteer captains are not happy about some of the changes we made. What kind of complaints? Li Haiyan asked. Captain Rowe says we remove so many safety systems from his cargo hauler that it violates every space safety regulation in human law. Captain Bay thinks we are crazy for replacing half her ships. Hull with temporary passenger compartments. Captain Yoon wants to know why we installed Villani technology that makes his navigation computers scream error messages. And what did you tell them? Kim Soo smiled grimly. I told them that safety regulations do not matter if everyone dies. Temporary compartments are better than no rescue at all, and error messages are preferable to letting 50 million people be murdered. How did they respond to that? They stopped complaining and asked when we start the mission. Dr. Choi Min was monitoring communications from the planet's surface. I am receiving updates from Villani evacuation coordinators. They have managed to get 8 million people off-world so far. but they are running out of time. The remaining 42 million are gathered in the major cities, waiting for rescue that may never come. Nira had been quietly watching the tactical displays, but now she spoke up. My people know they are probably going to die. But do you know what they are doing with their final days? What? Li Haiyan asked. They are creating art, music, sculptures, paintings, poetry. They want to leave something beautiful behind, something that says the Villani existed and had meaning. Even facing extinction, they choose to create rather than destroy. Li Haiyan felt that familiar fire burning in his chest. Again. The same feeling that had made him volunteer for dangerous missions throughout his career. The same feeling that made humans run toward danger when others ran away. Yang Bio, open a channel to all human ships in the task force. Channel open. Sir, Li Haiyan looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew, then spoke to the microphone that would carry his words to 40 ships scattered throughout the system. This is Captain Li Haiyan to all vessels. In approximately 90 hours, we are going to attempt something that has never been tried before. We are going to rescue 42 million people from a planet defended by the most powerful military force in this sector of the galaxy. He paused, choosing his words carefully. I will not lie to you. The odds are terrible. We might all die in the attempt. Our ships are not designed for combat, and our enemy has weapons that can vaporize cities. By every logical calculation, this mission should be impossible. Another pause. But we are not here because the mission is logical. We are here because 50 million innocent people are about to be murdered by bullies who think might makes right. We are here because someone has to stand up for those who cannot stand for themselves. We are here because that is what humans do. Through the bridge speakers, he could hear voices from other ships responding with determination and approval. The Villani are a peaceful people who have never harmed anyone. They have spent thousands of years creating beauty and advancing science. They represent the best of what intelligent life can become, and if we fail, all of that will be lost forever. Li Haiyan looked out at Valara Prime, its crystal cities gleaming like jewels against the darkness. But we are not going to fail. We are going to use human courage, human creativity, and human stubbornness to accomplish the impossible. We are going to save those people, and we are going to make the Krathan Empire learn that there are some things in this universe that cannot be conquered. The Com channel erupted with cheers and expressions of determination from 40 ship crews. All captains, begin final preparations. We launched the rescue operation in exactly 87 hours. This is going to be the most important thing any of us have ever done. Let us make sure we do it right. As the communication channel closed, Nira looked at Li Haiyan with something approaching awe. Now I understand why the Krathan Admiral seemed nervous when you said humans were involved. Your species does not just fight battles. You turn battles into causes. What do you mean, Li Haiyan? When most species face overwhelming odds, they calculate survival probabilities and make logical decisions. But humans facing overwhelming odds ask a different question. You do not ask if you can win. You ask if the cause is worth dying for. Park Jin looked back from his pilot station. And in this case, saving 50 million innocent lives is definitely worth dying for. Dr. Choi. Min nodded agreement. The Krathan Empire has conquered dozens of peaceful species because no one was willing to stand up to them. Maybe it is time someone showed them that bullying has consequences. Kim Soo was already running final system checks. I have never been part of a mission this important before. Whatever happens, we are going to make history. Yang Bio looked up from his communication console with a grim smile. History will either remember us as the humans who saved the Villani civilization or as the humans who died trying. Either way, it will be a story worth telling. Li Haiyan nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility and the fire of determination burning equally bright in his chest. In less than 4 days, they would either achieve the greatest rescue in galactic history or die in the attempt, but they would not give up. And they would not back down. After all, they were human. The attack began at dawn on Valara Prime, though there was no sun to mark the time. Li Haiyan's task force dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. 40 human ships arranged in a pattern that made no sense to conventional military thinking. Admiral Beck was waiting for them. Human ships approaching from multiple vectors, reported the Krathen tactical officer. Formation appears random and chaotic. Admiral Beck studied the approaching fleet through his command screens. The human vessels looked pathetic compared to his massive dreadnoughts. Cargo haulers, mining ships, exploration craft. None of them belonged in a battle. They are either brilliant strategists or complete fools, he murmured to himself. Either way, this should be entertaining. Aboard Li Haiyan's flagship, the bridge crew made final preparations for the most dangerous gamble of their lives. Phase technology is active on all ships, Kim Soo reported. Systems are holding steady, but I cannot guarantee how long the modifications will last under combat stress. Park Jin had his hands steady on the flight controls. All pilots report ready for phase maneuvers. The volunteer captains have been practicing, but this will be their first time under enemy fire. Yang Bio was coordinating communications between 40 different ships while monitoring Krathen fleet signals. Krathen are charging weapons systems. Looks like they plan to make this quick and brutal. Dr. Choi Min was tracking vital signs from all human crews. Heart rates are elevated but stable. Everyone is scared, but no one is backing down. Nira stood beside Li Haiyan's command chair, her blue skin glowing with nervous energy. My people are watching from the planet's surface. They cannot understand why anyone would risk so much to save strangers. Then maybe it is time they learned. Something about humanity, Li Haiyan said quietly. All ships begin attack pattern Alpha. What happened next defied every rule of space combat that the Krathen Empire had ever learned. The human ships began moving in impossible ways. They would charge straight toward the Krathen dreadnoughts, only to phase out of normal space just before the massive plasma cannons could target them. They would reappear behind the enemy formation, then phase out again before return fire could reach them. What are they doing? Admiral Beck demanded as his tactical displays showed targets appearing and disappearing like ghosts. They seem to be shifting in and out of our reality, the tactical officer replied uncertainly. Our weapons cannot lock onto targets that exist in normal spacetime less than 50% of the time. But the human ships were not just avoiding damage, they were gathering crucial intelligence with every attack run. Kim Soo had designed their sensors to record detailed scans of Krathen shield systems during each phase transition. Target shield frequencies recorded from Dreadnought 7, Park Jin reported over the communication channel. Weak spots identified in their rear deflector grid. Confirmed hits on Dreadnought 3's communication array, Captain Rowe's voice crackled through the speakers from his modified cargo hauler. They are having trouble coordinating their fire patterns. Yang Bio was monitoring Krathen communications and made a crucial discovery. Li Haiyan, their command structure is breaking down. The individual ship captains keep waiting for orders from Admiral Beck, but our attack pattern is too chaotic for centralized control. Exploiting that weakness, Li Haiyan replied. All ships switch to pattern beta. Target communication arrays and sensor clusters. Make them blind and deaf. The battle intensified as human ships began focusing their attacks on Krathen weak points. They could not penetrate the enemy's heavy armor or shields, but they could disrupt the systems that made the massive fleet effective. Dr. Choi Min discovered something remarkable while monitoring the human crews. Li Haiyan, you need to see this. Human brain activity during combat is unlike anything I have ever recorded. Stress hormones are actually improving reaction times and decision-making abilities. What does that mean? Li Haiyan asked while coordinating attack runs. It means humans are literally evolved for this kind of high-pressure situation. While other species become confused and panicked during combat, human crews are becoming more focused and effective. Admiral Beck was beginning to understand that he faced an enemy unlike any the Krathen Empire had fought before. These were not warriors seeking glory or conquest. These were protectors fighting for someone else's survival. Sir, our formation is falling apart, his tactical officer reported. The human ships are too fast and unpredictable. We cannot maintain defensive coordination. And then we stop trying to coordinate, Admiral Deck decided. All ships independent. Targeting, kill everything that moves. The Krathen dreadnoughts began firing wildly at anything their sensors could detect. Plasma beams lanced through space in all directions, turning the battle zone into a deadly light show, but the human ships kept phasing in and out of reality, avoiding most of the incoming fire. When they did take hits, the damage was absorbed by their modified armor and redundant systems. Captain Yoon's mining ship took a glancing blow that would have destroyed a normal vessel. Hull breach on Deck 3, but we are still operational, he reported calmly. Continuing attack run. Captain Bay's exploration craft used its scientific sensors to map Krathen weapon patterns. I have firing solution data for Dreadnoughts 4 and 8, transmitting to all ships. The tide of battle began to turn when Kim Soo made a breakthrough discovery. Li Haiyan, I found something. The Krathen shield systems have a critical vulnerability. If we can hit the same spot on their deflector grid with precise timing from multiple angles, we can create a cascade failure. How precise does the timing have to be? Li Hai asked. Within 0.3 seconds. And we need at least 6 ships to coordinate the attack. Park Jin looked back from his pilot station. Human reflexes can handle that timing, but it will require perfect coordination. Then we better be perfect, Li Haiyan said grimly. All ships, prepare for attack pattern Gamma. Target Dreadnought 1, shield grid coordinates transmitting now. What followed was the most precisely coordinated attack in human military history. 8 modified civilian ships phased into normal space simultaneously, fired at exactly the same target from different angles, then phased out again before the Krathen could respond. Dreadnought 1's shields collapsed in a brilliant cascade of energy. For the first time in decades, a Krathen warship was vulnerable. Admiral Deck watched in shock as his flagship's deflector screens failed. How is this possible? No species has ever penetrated Krathen shield technology. So the humans are not using conventional weapons. They are using our own shield harmonics against us. Their attack patterns are creating resonance cascades that our deflectors cannot compensate for. The human ships pressed their advantage immediately. Captain Rowe's cargo hauler, loaded with Villani evacuation equipment, managed to dock with the disabled Dreadnought's emergency airlock. Boarding successful, Rowe reported. Beginning download of Krathen tactical databases and communication protocols. But the real victory was still to come. Yang Bio had been quietly working on something, while the battle raged around them. Li Haiyan, I have been analyzing Krathen command frequencies. I think I can create interference patterns that will disrupt their entire fleet coordination system. Do it, Li Haiyan ordered without hesitation. Yang Bio activated his modified communication array, broadcasting carefully crafted interference signals that turned the Krathen fleet's own communication system against them. Orders became garbled, tactical data was corrupted, and individual ship captains lost contact with their admiral. All vessels, this is Admiral Deck. His voice crackled over the disrupted communication channels. Maintain formation and continue firing. But his orders reached only half his fleet, and even those ships received conflicting information due to Yang Bo's interference. Dr. Choi Min was monitoring the effectiveness of their strategy. Krathen coordination is down to 30% efficiency. Their captains are making independent decisions that conflict with each other. The battle reached its climax when Li Haiyan made a decision that would be remembered throughout galactic history. Instead of continuing the hit-and-run attacks, he ordered his entire fleet to phase directly through the Krathen formation and head for Valara Prime. All ships begin evacuation operations immediately. We have maybe 20 minutes before the Krathen reorganize and come after us. 40 human ships descended toward the crystal cities of Valara Prime like a swarm of protective angels. Modified cargo holds open to receive desperate refugees. Exploration craft used their scientific equipment to scan for optimal landing sites. Mining ships used their heavy-duty equipment to clear evacuation routes. Park Jin piloted their flagship. to the largest city where millions of Villani waited with whatever possessions they could carry. Nira, your people need to move fast. Our phase technology bought us time, but not much. Nira was already coordinating with Villani evacuation teams through her translator. My people understand. They are ready to trust their lives to human bravery. As the evacuation began, Li Haiyan realized they had accomplished something unprecedented. They had not destroyed the Krathan fleet, but they had proven that it could be defeated. They had shown the galaxy that bullies could be stood up to, and that peaceful people did not have to face extinction alone. The evacuation of Valara Prime took 18 hours of non-stop work by 40 human ship crews and millions of Villani civilians. Li Haiyan stood on his bridge watching the final transport shuttles rise from the crystal cities below, carrying the last refugees to safety. Final count, 47,800,000 Villani successfully evacuated, Yang Bio reported, exhaustion clear in his voice. Less than 3 million remain on the planet, and those are volunteers who refuse to leave. Volunteers? Li Haiyan asked in surprise. Nira, who had worked tirelessly to coordinate between human and Villani rescue teams, answered sadly. Artists and historians who want to document the final moments of our homeworld. They choose to stay and record what happened so future generations will remember what was lost? Through the main view screen, Li Haiyan could see the Krathan fleet reforming in the distance. Admiral Thek had spent the last day regrouping his forces and was now approaching Valara Prime with obvious intent to complete his original mission. Dr. Choi Min looked up from her medical station. I have treated over 200 cases of exhaustion. Among our crews in the past day, everyone is running on determination and stimulants. We cannot maintain this pace much longer. Kim Soo was monitoring their modified ship systems. Phase technology is failing on 12 vessels. The constant use has burned out components that were never designed for extended combat operations. We are lucky any of it still works. Park. Jin remained at his pilot station, though his hands shook slightly from fatigue. Krathan fleet will be in weapons range in 30 minutes. Do we evacuate the remaining civilians or stay to fight? Li Haiyan was about to answer when Yang Bio interrupted with excitement. Sir, we are receiving transmission requests from multiple sources. The Battle of Valara Prime has been monitored by intelligence services from dozens of different species. Put them through. Li Haiyan ordered. The main screen split into multiple windows showing representatives from various galactic civilizations. The Xanthari Council, the Helix Coalition, even species that Li Haiyan had never seen before. All of them wanted to speak with the humans who had accomplished the impossible. Captain Li Haiyan, spoke a Xanthari ambassador, our government wishes to know if humanity would consider a mutual defense treaty. Any species capable of defeating Krathan tactical systems would be a valuable ally. A Helix representative added their own offer. The Coalition can provide advanced weapon technologies to upgrade your fleet. We have never shared such systems before, but your actions today have demonstrated worthiness. More offers came from other species. Trade agreements, technology exchanges, territorial guarantees. The entire political structure of the galaxy was shifting in response to what the humans had achieved, but Li Haiyan was not paying attention to the diplomatic offers. His focus was on Admiral Thek's approaching fleet and the 3 million Villani still on the planet below. Yang Bio, open a direct channel to the Krathan flagship. Channel open, sir. Admiral Thek's scarred face appeared on the main screen, but something had changed in his expression. The casual cruelty was gone, replaced by what looked almost like respect. So, Captain Li Haiyan, you have successfully evacuated most of the Villani population. Impressive, but there are still millions on the planet, and my orders remain unchanged. Valara Prime will be strip-mined for its resources. Li Haiyan stood up slowly, feeling the weight of the moment. Admiral, I have a proposal for you. I am listening. Single combat. You and me. If I win, your fleet leaves this system and never returns. If you win, my people withdraw and you can complete your mission. Admiral, Thek's expression shifted to one of genuine surprise. You would stake the lives of 3 million Villani on personal? Combat? That is either very brave or very foolish. Maybe both, but it is also very human. The Krathan admiral was quiet for a long moment. You realize that Krathan warriors are bred for combat? I am twice your size and have decades of military experience. You would be facing almost certain death. I realize that. Do you accept the challenge? Admiral Vec leaned back in his command chair, studying Li Haiyun with calculating eyes. Why? Would I agree to such terms? I have 12 dreadnoughts. You have 40 damaged civilian ships. I can simply destroy you all and take the planet anyway. Li Haiyun smiled grimly. Because you are curious. In 30 years of conquest, you have never faced an enemy that fought the way we fought today. You want to understand what makes humans different. Single combat will give you that understanding. And if I refuse your challenge? Then you will spend the rest of your career wondering if you could have defeated the species that humiliated the Krathan Empire in front of the entire galaxy. Admiral Vec's laugh was different this time. Not cruel or mocking, but almost appreciative. You understand warrior psychology very well, human. Very well, I accept your challenge. But we fight. By Krathan rules, with